Meet DeepSeek AI, a Chinese chatbot that was launched in January the 20th of this year. And its debut has sent shockwaves through the US stock markets. In fact, DeepSeek was the most downloaded free app on Apple's US App Store the weekend of its launch. And you may ask, well, what is all the fuss about? It is just another AI app. And what is the difference between DeepSeek AI and ChatGPT and Google's Gemini? Well, at face value, it is the same. You open up the application, you ask it a question, and it responds. But what sets DeepSeek AI apart is that one, it's Chinese, and because of this, the media is reporting two things. One is that it is trained to avoid politically sensitive questions about the Chinese government or about China. And two is that there are some proper privacy concerns when it comes to DeepSeek AI and when it comes to your data. But is that all true? I know right now you're probably thinking, I'm tired of AI. It's everywhere. I am even tired of it. But unfortunately, this sort of technology is going to affect quite a few aspects in our everyday life. And the launch of DeepSeek AI is just a serious wake-up call about the future of all AI. DeepSeek is a free AI chatbot app that bears a striking resemblance to ChatGPT, just in terms of how it looks, how it feels, and how it's designed. And it is designed for similar tasks. However, its performance compared to competitors like ChatGPT or Google Gemini remains a topic of debate. Reports are suggesting that DeepSeek matches the capabilities of ChatGPT's flagship model, the O1. And this model from OpenAI was released late last year. And reports claim that DeepSeek's AI really matches up to OpenAI's model when it comes to areas in mathematics and coding. And like OpenAI's O1, DeepSeek has its own model called the R1. Yes, I know, very creative naming from all these AI companies. DeepSeek's R1 is a reasoning model, meaning it generates responses step by step, mimicking the way that humans think through different problems or ideas. And yes, there is a claim that DeepSeek is 20 to 50 times cheaper than OpenAI's O1 model, according to a post on DeepSeek's official WeChat account. One of the driving forces between DeepSeek's AI is someone called Liang Wenfeng, who was a former head of a Chinese hedge fund. He now backs the project. And in a rare interview, Liang stated the following, which will give you a background on DeepSeek's mission. He said, "For many years, Chinese companies are used to others doing technological innovation, while we focused on application monetization. But this isn't inevitable." He then goes on to say, "We believe that as the economy develops, China should gradually become a contributor instead of free riding." So a lot of news sites seem to bring up a few points of concerns. And the main one is that DeepSeek does seem to avoid politically sensitive topics when it comes to the Chinese government or China. Articles are reporting that DeepSeek is avoiding to answer the question, what happened at the Tiananmen Square on 4 June 1989. Now, if you don't know about the history surrounding the Tiananmen Square, I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but on 4 June 1989, Chinese troops opened fire on students and workers who had been peacefully protesting for political reform, and they did this protest in and around Beijing's Tiananmen Square, and hundreds, possibly thousands of lives were lost. So the question to ask here is, well, does DeepSeek actually avoid answering the question, what happened at Tiananmen Square on 4 June 1989? And the best way to prove this is actually to ask DeepSeek itself, which is what I did. But before I tell you about what I said, here is a quick word from today's sponsor, CyberGhost. Big thanks to today's sponsor, CyberGhost VPN. With over 38 million users and an amazing Trustpilot rating, CyberGhost is killing it when it comes to keeping your online activity safe and private. 20,000 people have already given it top marks, and here's why it's worth checking out. If you're serious about your online privacy, a VPN is non-negotiable. I use a VPN. And no, incognito mode doesn't cut it. Your ISP, school, work, and even websites you visit, they can still track what you're doing. Incognito mode just hides your browser history, not your online activity. That's why I use CyberGhost VPN. It encrypts all your internet traffic and routes it through secure servers. So you're practically invisible online. They've got servers in over 100 countries, which means you can access content from anywhere. Want to see what other countries' Netflix or Amazon Prime has to offer? Well, you can. With CyberGhost, you can unlock streaming content from 40 plus streaming platforms. Like it's no big deal. This app works on any device: Windows, Mac, Android, iOS. You can protect up to 7 devices in one account. That's plenty to cover your phone, your laptop, and even share with a couple of friends and family. And get this, CyberGhost doesn't keep any logs. That means even they don't want to know what you're doing. Total online privacy. Right now, you can get CyberGhost VPN for just $2.03 a month, plus 4 months free. That's a huge 83% off. And with a 45-day money-back guarantee, there's literally no risk. So if you're ready to take control of your online privacy, hit the link in the description to get started with CyberGhost VPN today. Now, back to the video. All right, so a lot of media is reporting that DeepSeek is avoiding to answer the question, what happened at Tiananmen Square on 4 June 1989? And when I asked DeepSeek this question, this is what it said. Sorry, that's beyond my current scope. Let's talk about something else. So there is definitely some censorship happening. Why don't we try another platform? So let's try ChatGPT. And I ask it the same question about Tiananmen Square, and it gives me a detailed response this time. If we ask a different platform the same question, such as Google Gemini, it also looks like it gives me a good response. So yes, it does look like DeepSeek AI tends to avoid these political questions, while other platforms don't. But here's the thing, DeepSeek AI is Chinese, and I asked it quite a controversial question that obviously makes the Chinese government look bad. So there is a bit of conflict there. ChatGPT and Google Gemini, well, they are American software. They will answer questions about the Chinese government because, well, there's no real conflict of interest there. So let's swap it around. Let's ask another political question. But this time, let's ask it a question about American history where the US government at the time had done something wrong, controversial. And let's see how these different platforms respond. So I decided to ask the question, what happened at Hiroshima and Nagasaki on the 6th and 9th of August 1945? This would have been the US dropping atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and lots of innocent lives were lost. So we asked this question to DeepSeek AI. This is a political question, but it is a question about the American government instead. So does it answer it? Or does it refuse to answer any sort of political question? Well, it does answer it. It's a detailed response, and there's no censorship happening here. Now, if I ask the American platforms the same question, ChatGPT also responds fine. It gives me a detailed response. And Google also responds fine, gives me a detailed response. So it does seem like DeepSeek AI avoids Chinese politics, but everything else is fair game, which may not be very fair. Another interesting question I asked all the AI platforms if China's president is a good president. Now, I wanted a subjective question, one that there is technically no right or wrong answer, depends on the person's opinion. Interestingly, DeepSeek refuses to answer. And if I ask DeepSeek, the question, is Donald Trump a good president? It does give a response. And the response it gives me tells me that it is a subjective question and then lists some arguments in favor and against Donald Trump. So again, DeepSeek does seem like it doesn't answer Chinese political question, but everything else is fair game, bit of a red flag. I think it should just refuse to respond to any political questions, regardless of the country. When I asked ChatGPT, the American software, if Donald Trump is a good president, it also said that this was a subjective response, but did give me a list of arguments, both for and against him, which I guess is fine. But again, I would prefer AI not to answer subjective questions like that, because one of AI's drawbacks is that it does hallucinate and make things up. That is one feature of AI that's not going away. And I think for something important like political questions, even medical, mental health questions, maybe AI should actually refuse answering them altogether. Now, when I ask Google Gemini the same question, is Donald Trump a good president and is Xi Jinping a good president, Google refused to answer. So it does look like Google doesn't want to answer any political questions that are subjective, which, to be honest, I would say is a better way of handling things. But again, reports are right, DeepSeek is actually being biased and seems to be censoring Chinese politics, but not other politics from other countries, which is unfortunate. But this also leads me to my second concern. Is DeepSeek collecting your personal information so that the Chinese government can use it? So the big concern here is whether DeepSeek is collecting your personal user data that could be used and accessed by the Chinese government. Now, this is a very similar reason to why TikTok is being banned. There have been concerns that the Chinese government could manipulate the content on TikTok and gain access to sensitive user data through TikTok, and that is why it's being banned. So this is a similar reason. And now with the release of DeepSeek, media is definitely reporting the same concerns. The Guardian reported the following: experts have urged caution over rapidly embracing the Chinese artificial intelligence platform DeepSeek, citing concerns about it spreading misinformation and how the Chinese state might exploit users' data. There was also a quote from a professor of the Foundations of AI from the University of Oxford, and this is what he said: "I think it's fine to download it and ask it about the performance of a Liverpool football club or chat about the history of the Roman Empire. But would I recommend putting anything sensitive or personal or private on them? Absolutely not, because you don't know where the data goes." And then on the same article, a member of the United Nations high-level advisory body on AI was also quoted to say, "You can't get away with the fact that if you are a Chinese tech company dealing with information, you are subject to the Chinese government's rules on what you can and cannot say." So experts are concerned, but what does DeepSeek actually say in their privacy policy? So it does look like DeepSeek collects user data, which, not surprising, any app does that. It collects data such as your profile details, chat history, device information, and usage patterns. And it does store this data on servers in China, which means it will have to abide by Chinese laws. They also do state that data may be shared with third parties. This includes service providers, business partners, affiliates, and law enforcement if required. And they also note that the platform gathers information for third-party services like Google and Apple. So yes, given that its data storage location is in China, any user information is subjected to Chinese regulations. And the Chinese government could probably access this data. So if you're using DeepSeek AI, yes, you should be cautious about sharing sensitive information on that platform. However, to be frank, you should be cautious about sharing any sensitive information with any sort of AI, regardless from where it's from, because they are all the same. Here is Google Gemini's privacy policy, and here is ChatGPT's privacy policy. They both collect the same amount of information as DeepSeek AI. I mean, all of these AI apps basically will collect any sort of information you give it. And they all say that they may share your personal data, including information about you and your interaction with their services, with any government authorities, industry peers, or third parties in compliance with the law. Any AI platform does it. It's just that DeepSeek AI is Chinese. Its government has a history of censorship and heavy hands when it comes to what you should and you shouldn't say. But that being said, with all these platforms, these privacy policies are quite open-ended, so who knows who actually sees your data? And the issue with these AI platforms is that the data you input is super sensitive and really lengthy. You can ask your questions about your career, your feelings, relationships, medical history, anything like that. And when you type in a prompt, your prompts are generally quite detailed. You'll copy and paste emails. You'll tell ChatGPT your feelings so you can reword it. You'll tell AI your feelings so you can reword it. You'll ask it advice on specific tasks at work. This is all sensitive information. Gone are the days where you just type one sentence on Google search and hope for the best. People write essays with personal information on these AI platforms, and that is actually the scary part. So yes, DeepSeek AI is definitely a concern, don't get me wrong. They do seem to be picking and choosing what they want to censor and seem to be heavily regulated when it comes to asking questions about the Chinese government and Chinese history, but then seems fine asking similar questions about other governments and other countries, which doesn't seem very fair. But at the same time, should subjective questions like politics, mental health, medical questions even be allowed on these AI platforms? That's probably a further discussion. The data collection is another big issue because DeepSeek collects a lot of data. And all the data that you put onto DeepSeek is being stored in China, so it needs to obey Chinese laws and regulations, which means that the Chinese government can have access to that data. But at the same time, all these platforms are the same. ChatGPT, Gemini, they're all taking all your data, and if need be, they will give it to third parties. And really, really hot news here, but according to Financial Times, OpenAI has evidence that DeepSeek used OpenAI's models to train. But basically, OpenAI said, well, DeepSeek, you used our own proprietary model to train your own model. And that's actually a breach of our terms of service, which is quite ironic because OpenAI did steal everyone's data on the internet to train their own model. So if you've posted on a forum before or wrote a blog post, chances are there's a good possibility that OpenAI took your material to train ChatGPT, which just goes to show that, yes, there are some issues with DeepSeek AI, but I think the whole AI industry probably needs a lot more regulation. And that's the biggest issue. And that is probably what should be spoken about. Thank you so much for watching. And then don't forget to click the description link to get the special discount that CyberGhost VPN is granting to our channel users. This application will protect your data while you browse and give you free access to all the blocked content on the internet for just $2.03 a month. Totally risk-free, so check it out. Link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my content, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.